time I look at the hull, I see crow's feet, cracks, imperfections, little dents that need filling, dirt everywhere, and above all, paint that has given its all. Val had already been painted a few years ago, but the white was dull in some areas. It was cracked or had an orange peel texture, and overall it showed the marks of time, the sun, and especially the years. I had always wanted to redo it, to have it professionally painted, but that would have been far too expensive. And a couple of months ago, while I was filming at the shipyard, I had an encounter that happened at just the right time, but I'll tell you about it after the intro. A friend and boat neighbor who doesn't live on his boat but takes care of 4 boats that are even older than Valeila, which is from '92, about every 5 years. He completely repaints them all by himself. No pressurized paint booths, no professionals or equipment costing thousands of euros, just patience and a methodical approach, and a simple single component paint. So I saw him working, standing next to the boat, and I asked him, but isn't it difficult? And he replied, more than difficult, you just have to do it by hand. You just need to do things the right way. And so, after a brief conversation, I was convinced and decided to give it a try myself. So in this video, we'll see how I painted the boat, what I used, and also how much it cost me. Before I started painting, I had to understand one fundamental thing. What's the difference between a single component urethane paint and a 2-component polyurethane paint? It's easy to get lost among all the different types of paint out there, but as soon as you start researching, you quickly discover there are 2 main schools of thought. Let's put it that way. In short, the 2-component polyurethane paint is the more professional option. It's the most durable, hardest, and shiniest, and it's often used in shipyards. However, it's also more delicate to apply. You need to mix the components correctly, follow precise timing, and above all, be very careful during application. Plus, you shouldn't work outdoors. On the other hand, the single component urethane paint is easier to use, less stressful, less complicated, and more forgiving for those working outdoors or not. It's for a professional painter. Certainly, a 2-component paint job done in a spray booth by a professional will deliver a superior result, but that's not the point of this video. The point is to understand whether someone without specific skills like me can restore the boat to its former glory on their own. And in my opinion, the answer is yes. And honestly, I was already pretty nervous about making mistakes. If I also had to play chemist with catalysts, percentages, and reaction times, I would have ended up pinging the cat and the whole workshop too. What did I use? I armed myself with sandpaper. At first, I used 1000 grit, but then I switched to 400. Otherwise, I would have never finished. Afraid of damaging the base too much, I started with a palm sander. But even then, I didn't get much result, so I continued with a 15-centimeter diameter sander with dust extraction. Then I used epoxy filler for the underwater hull and polyester filler for the rest of the hull, alcohol for cleaning, foam rollers, brushes, paint trays, and even adhesive strips for the finishing touches. And I started painting. Since you're probably tired of hearing me talk, I'll now show you how Marina and I painted the boat. This is an experiment for us too, so it's something we'll be doing together. The idea is to remove the old paint, even if not completely. So we'll use it as a sort of primer so we don't have to strip everything down to bare hull. Since the boat, as we got it, has never been stripped down to bare hull, we've never actually seen the Hinelson on this boat. We've always just seen the paint. As you can see, the condition of the boat is really like orange peel. It's scratched, it's yellowed, so the boat will definitely look much better. We're doing this experiment for you. While we're at it, we'll also remove everything that's blue, like these stripes, and we'll redo everything gray, because the idea is to transform Valeila with a gray bimini, lazy bag, and even a dark gray spray hood. But not this year, because we don't have the money. First, of course, before we start painting, we'll need to do the filling. I've always been told that's for the hull below the waterline. Filler, epoxy, deck, topsides, even polyester. To do the filling, I use epoxy filler. There's a component A and a component B. They need to be mixed in equal parts. That is a 1-to-1 ratio. You need to mix them together on a small spatula, then you can move on to the actual filling process. You have approximately 1 full hour to carefully apply the mixture before it gradually begins to harden and set permanently. Please remember, when you do the first coat, never apply more than 10 millimeters per layer. Otherwise, now we wait for them to dry, then we hydrate and see if there's any more filling to do. Again, it seems to happen every single season that the person right next to you simply does not have any covers on their fenders. When they're new, they're just fine. But once they yellow from the sun, they lose that rubber coating. The only thing I found that works perfectly is the adhesive remover for labels, so don't drive yourself crazy with strange products. I'm using 400 grit because the paint is really damaged, so we need to remove quite a bit. After that, all those nice curves, little corners, and grills need to be done by hand. Have fun. Today is another day at the shipyard. So yesterday we finished preparing the bottom of the boat. As I already mentioned, this is an experiment. We noticed there's still a bit of orange peel left. We should have sanded all the way down to bare to remove all the old paint, but right now that's just not possible due to time constraints. We hope that the paint we've chosen will provide enough coverage. Today we're moving on up. And we're thoroughly cleaning the entirety of the deck, because anything that falls from the deck onto the fresh paint will obviously leave a permanent stain. One of the things you should do is try to have a window of at least 3 to 4 days of good weather. You can't paint in the morning. The boat needs to be dry, especially on top, to prevent drips. So you need to do it around 10 in the morning. The weather is a very important factor because the paint needs to be applied when the temperature is between 5 and 30 degrees Celsius. I didn't have major issues applying the paint under the sun, but we did have to deal with the problem of pollen flying everywhere. So be mindful of the timing when you decide to paint. After thoroughly degreasing the deck, we need to work on the hull sides, so we have to clean them completely because they're covered in dust. We got some high purity alcohol and microfiber cloths. As soon as it's dry, we thoroughly wipe everything down to remove any remaining dust, and then we start painting. When you start painting, you should avoid wearing the exact same set of clothes you used to sand the whole boat. Otherwise, the dust from your clothes will end up sticking to the wet paint and everything will turn out gritty. Tape. Here I'm masking off the whole boat, the pump, then we have the portholes, the gunnel, and that's it. Oh, and Ipru's bow roller. It's time to start painting. The roller needs to be thoroughly and evenly soaked. Then we carefully bring it over to this area and begin to roll off the excess paint. It feels like applying it on velvet. Yeah, of course, it's definitely a little bit more challenging to do here, but the rolling process really should be done exactly like this. And by doing it this way, you ensure that you spread it out very evenly and thoroughly, first in one direction and then right back in the other. These are the finishing strokes, actually the finishing rolls on the flat surface. Then we'll let it dry. The longer it dries, the better. Actually, they say you need to wait at least 24 hours for it to set properly before applying the next coat. We're on the second coat now, and it seems to me that the paint is turning out well. Everyone, what I've realized after these 2 coats of single component urethane is that preparing the surface is essential. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to strip it down completely, so as I mentioned before, I settled for sanding and smoothing the paint that was already there. It still seems to me that the work is coming out well. Originally, I planned to do just 2 coats. Actually, out of those 5 4-liter cans, I still have a full can and 3/4 left, so I think I'll do a 3rd coat and a 4th one on the stern. The stern is the part that gets damaged the most, since it's the most used part of the boat. So this is the final result of the painting process. It's still drying right now, so we'll have to wait a bit longer to see the actual final result. We'll see it once I've also applied the waterline decals to make it look a bit nicer and more detailed.
One of the biggest mistakes we made was using that white paper tape because it stuck absolutely everywhere. Now we're trying everything we possibly can to get it all off.
You really need a few people to handle this last phase, which is the finishing. We've also given it a bit of style for you. Here, we didn't use paint, but instead we used an adhesive strip. The adhesive strip needs to be of exceptionally high quality, otherwise the finish turns out completely unprofessional. Every time you look at it, you'll think, why did I even put it on? It comes off. Look how nice it is. We've seen that paint can be forgiving, but preparation is less so, because the better the surface is prepared, the more the final result will improve. 2 coats are fine, but 3 are even better. The key is not to rush, but above all, don't expect the results of a professional paint job. With gel coat, you'll have to accept that there will always be some small imperfections. What do you think of the result we achieved? If you have any advice or want to ask for information, write to me in the comments. In the end, the question that stays in your mind is this one. But how much did it cost, Jean? Between paint, rollers, brushes, trays, fillers, sandpaper, tape, and various other materials. I spent about 450 to 500 euros. Let's say 250 euros for 4 kilograms of monourethane paint divided into 0.75 liter cans, 150 euros for the adhesive stripes, which are a bit pricey, and about 100 euros for consumable materials. Is that a lot? Is that a little? It depends on how you look at it. One thing is certain, seeing your own boat become so beautiful and doing it all with your own hands, that part is truly priceless. So, do you feel ready to paint your boat now? Please make sure to share this video with the live board next to you. And if you have any truly professional tips, leave a comment. And as always, fair winds, not too little, not too much, but just right.